Hey guys, this is Anon bringing you a preview of the much hyped FCM 50T tank. This is the very first French tank to be introduced to Blitz, and I've had a really good time getting to know this tank a little bit. It's got some extremely interesting characteristics that makes it fun to play, and doesn't really feel like any other tank currently in the game. While I think the FCM is going to quickly get a reputation as a paper tank, it has a lot of attributes that really start to make up for that. Its main strength is definitely going to be its mobility. With a 51 kilometer top speed and really strong power to weight ratio, it can really get up and move. It's not world-class speed like some of the light tanks like the RU-251 and stuff like that, but it really does move quickly, and it especially has a nice traverse speed to go along with it, so you have the ability to still circle tanks and relocate at the same time. The solid acceleration lets you close the distance on enemy TDs fairly quickly, while the wide tracks and good terrain resistance allow you to use parts of the map and engage enemy tanks in ways that others just can't do. Other medium tanks certainly have stronger characteristics along the lines of acceleration and traverse, but I've really found that the unique combination of the terrain resistance and acceleration and power to weight ratio has really allowed this tank to perform in some interesting ways. With a lot of the newer tank lines really focusing on speed, the FCM is really the first Tier 8 premium tank to have a speed-first mobility advantage. Should make it really appealing. One of my favorite things about the FCM is its amazing hill climbing ability. The power and acceleration combination really lets you use the maps and interesting locations in the maps in ways a lot of tanks really can't, except for some of the newer lights. Relocation ability and especially positioning are some of the most important aspects of any of the lightly armored tanks. So play this tank as more of a second line supporter or a peekaboom specialist, definitely not designed to be on the front line. It has some fairly exceptional reverse speed, so that combined with the way the armor is designed really make it an excellent peekaboomer, especially when you have some cover like a dead tank or a ridge line you can play with. The biggest disadvantages the FCM has is definitely its armor in general, but also its pure size. The one that way it makes up for it is by being fairly heavy, so it does have a little bit of ramming ability, especially against lights, but with that thin armor, especially side armor, you have to be extremely careful with that positioning. It's going to earn the paper armor designation pretty honestly, but the good thing is the turret tends to be a little bit troll, and you will bounce a little bit of that. Also, the 120 millimeters of very sloped frontal armor will allow you to actually bounce quite a bit as long as you're angling correctly. The tracks are also extremely wide, which help in the road handling, but also will eat a few shells. You just have to be extremely careful not to over angle. One of the biggest features for me on this tank is the gun. It has fairly moderate DPM and alpha, but has some of the best penetration values of any medium Tier 8 tank. It won't have any problem going through anything at Tier 8 and can handle just about anything at Tier 9 as well, especially with the APCR that it loads. Unfortunately, credit earning on the FCM is good, but not exceptional. It's certainly not going to replace some of your standard grind tanks, but it does earn fairly well, better than the Rudy, less than the IS-6, somewhere in those lines for you credit hounds. The only major disappointment I have in the FCM is that it strangely has less view range than any of the other Tier 8 mediums, which might hurt it a little bit in its second line approach, but is certainly overcomable by its other characteristics. I hope you enjoyed this preview, and I'm sure I will be featuring much more gameplay and strategies on the FCM 50T once it's released in-game.